onto an absolute career politician scumbag like Senator Mark Kelly here, who is now doubling down on his narrative, his seditious narrative that our U.S. military can and should be disobeying orders from the commander-in-chief, President Donald Trump himself. And I'll get to that in 1 second, but I want to fill you in with the context of what's going on here, because Mark Kelly has now associated himself with the latest mainstream media narrative spin on everything that the Trump administration is doing using our U.S. military, perhaps the one that they consider the most controversial of all, the Venezuelan drug boats. And in case you've been living under a rock, the Trump administration has been going to absolute war with Venezuelan drug boats trying to ship poison across the borders, literally blowing these boats to smithereens and posting the kill cam footage of it all over social media for everyone to see. And they haven't just been blowing up one boat here or there, they've been blowing up a lot of boats. It seemingly has been happening every single week at least once. And of course, in typical bad faith style that you'd expect out of a liberal, they've been off the walls about this one. Those are poor Venezuelan fishermen. They're trying to feed their families and earn an honest living, and the Trump administration is just blowing up any boat they see floating in the ocean. And I don't know about you, but these up-close photos of these drug boats, I think, tell a much different story. This is not the kind of boat that you fish out of, and I would never expect a liberal man to know how to do something as manly as fish. They're probably more suited towards knitting their latest transgender outfits, but typically, fishermen don't need a speedboat with 3 motors attached on the back of it that's hauling massive blue barrels. You don't store your caught fish in blue barrels typically, and you don't need 3 motors because, for anyone who may not know, fishing is usually more of a relaxing event. Even professional fishing, you don't need to hurry up and get somewhere. The fish really aren't going anywhere. You're going to go where you're going to go, and you're going to cast your rod and you're going to catch stuff. Or you'll use a net. But you don't need a speedboat. And certainly, by the way, Venezuelan fishermen, who I would say earn less than a modest living annually, could never even afford a boat of that caliber. And so I've got a little side-by-side comparison photo here for the liberals who are too stupid to understand what I'm saying, but essentially the top there is what a drug smuggling boat looks like. The bottom is what a commercial fishing vessel looks like. They're very different. And I've watched personally with great delight every single video that the Trump administration has posted of these Venezuelan drug boats being blown to smithereens. I usually make popcorn, and it usually puts a great smile on my face and brightens my day. And I can tell you, after seeing every single video throughout the last several months, I have not seen a single boat that looks like that one on the bottom photo there. We're not blowing up fishermen. Not to mention, fishermen also don't usually use submarines to do their fishing, which is, of course, exactly what you see in this footage here, where we found a drug smuggling submarine south of the border. They figured, oh, the Americans are blowing up our drug boats, we'll just use a submarine. Well, we put a stop to that thought process too, thankfully. We caught this submarine. But despite all of this, despite any amount of logic that you could hurl a liberal's way, they are set on their narrative that what Trump is doing here by blowing up these Venezuelan drug boats is an international war crime, because Venezuelans have a right to travel peacefully, no matter what kind of poison they're trying to sneak into America. That's their right, damn it. We can't just go and blow them up. And that's where this disabled-looking Lex Luthor comes into play. Senator Mark Kelly. You see, he knows he's in possibly big trouble here for recommending our U.S. soldiers commit sedition against the president by disobeying orders they feel are unlawful. And so what he's decided to do, in a last-ditch effort of self-preservation, no doubt, is he's decided to grift onto this Venezuelan drug boat obliterating that we're witnessing from the Trump administration and from Pete Hegseth. And so here is Senator Mark Kelly speaking on the topic on Meet the Press.
You can certainly go to the judge, advocate generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It puts a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility, and they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal. And I was saying weeks ago, my concern is with the service members, that we're gonna put these individuals in a really, really tough decision, in a tough place. And they may find out, down the road that they did something that is illegal. It is not fair to them. That's why we need presidents and Secretary of Defense who understand the Constitution, who understand the rule of law, and have more respect for the Constitution and the country and service members than the whims of a president.
So much wrong there. And I want to point out the most important part of what he's doing. He's preying on the fear that we often see from within the Republican Party that I would tell you is their number one weakness, and that is future Democrat retaliation from the inevitable reality of Democrats regaining power and seeking revenge, just like we saw them do during the Biden regime to President Donald Trump himself. Because what he cleverly said there is down the line, these soldiers may find out that they broke the law, and that's not fair to them. Essentially, what he's doing by saying that is trying to apply real-time pressure to our United States military men and women who are currently taking these actions to do what I would call protect America from literal poison being shipped across our borders. By the way, they are following orders, and they are following lawful orders from President Donald Trump. And the reason why I can confidently actually tell you this is because very, very early on in President Donald Trump's presidency this year, sometime around late January or February, he had Secretary of State Marco Rubio designate all cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, which means we are at war with these people, and rightfully so. They may not come across the border in droves and shoot us down and mow us down or even blow us up like perhaps a Middle Eastern would. But what they're doing is they're killing off large amounts of the population by smuggling in poison, drugs, oftentimes laced with fentanyl, which is incredibly deadly, of course. And so the Trump administration ran on this promise. This was one of Trump's campaign promises. And as the commander-in-chief, backed by the Secretary of State Marco Rubio's actions of designating these cartels as foreign terrorists, he is well within his right to order the military to strike these boats and kill the people operating them. They are an absolute threat to America. And because they're designated as foreign terrorists, they are literally enemies we are at war with. End of story. So for him to say that these soldiers are acting on the whims of a president, that's the commander-in-chief there. And he's a retired military man, this guy. So what he's essentially doing is speaking out against his commander-in-chief, the one with the ultimate say, the one who leads the military unquestionably. He should know better, and he does know better. But he's preying on the weakness of the Republicans, the fear of future retaliation and revenge, combined with the hesitancy to act and dish out appropriate consequences for behavior like this. Make no mistake about it. What Senator Kelly is doing here is daring the Trump DOJ to do something about it, because in his mind, at least, he doesn't think they will. And I'm beginning to doubt if we'll ever see justice handed out by the Trump Department of Justice. However, justice might be coming Senator Mark Kelly's way one way or another, because while we can't depend on that useless Pam Bondi, there are other avenues where justice is being explored for this guy. He, because he's retired, might wind up being called back to face the military courts. And they're far less lenient on like this than that dumb blonde in office Pam Bondi is. So there's that. There's a little bit of hope around all of this in my mind, that we might see this guy get what he deserves, which is none other than a 10-year prison sentence with a 6-figure fine. However, there's a little bit of controversy around these drug boats recently that he's playing more into. And that controversy has to deal with one of the drug boats that was blown up, apparently had 2 survivors on it, hanging off the sides of it. And so what did our military do? They struck it a second time. And of course, this is just according to reports that we're hearing. I'm not really sure the validity of that. It could just be a rumor, but apparently that's the case. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The Democrats are again picking the wrong battles. You may get some outrage from leftists who are looking for any way to criticize President Donald Trump. They want to be mad at Trump every single day of their life, so they will naturally grift onto a story like this and grab onto it. Because for some people who have stupid levels of fake empathy, this is just such a horrifying story. I mean, you already neutralized the target and took care of the drug problem. Those two poor people somehow survived the explosion. They were hanging on for dear life, and you blew them up again. That's outrageous. I don't give a shit. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't give a shit. I mean, these are what? Venezuelan people? I've never met them. I'll never know them. I don't know their families. And on top of it, they're smuggling poison across our borders. They're literally our enemy, and I'm happy to see them go. That's where I stand as an American. I won't even sit here and pretend that I'm horrified by it or that it's sad that these people lost their lives. I'm thrilled that they lost their lives. I love knowing that they're dead. And I think plenty of Americans agree with that notion and that sentiment. Nevertheless, the liberals are picking this battle to fight on. Trump is an international war criminal. Those were two unarmed people that were just trying to survive, and he decided no survivors. No survivors is the motto for the Trump administration and the U.S. military under Trump's leadership. I mean, this guy's a dictator. President Donald Trump was asked about this on Air Force One, and he has stated he doesn't know if it's true, and he would not have actually okayed a second strike on the boat.
Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike. The first strike was very lethal. It was fine. And if there were two people around, but Pete said that didn't happen.
Pete Hegseth has also made a statement regarding several pieces of misinformation being put out there about the Venezuelan drug boats. He states, as usual, the fake news is delivering more fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory reporting to discredit our incredible warriors fighting to protect the homeland. As we've said from the beginning, and in every statement, these highly effective strikes are specifically intended to be lethal kinetic strikes. The declared intent is to stop lethal drugs, destroy narco boats, and kill the narco terrorists who are poisoning the American people. Every trafficker we kill is affiliated with a designated terrorist organization. He goes on to state the Biden administration preferred the kid's glove approach, allowing millions of people, including dangerous cartels and unvetted Afghans, to flood our communities with drugs and violence. The Trump administration has sealed the border and gone on the offensive against narco terrorists. Biden coddled terrorists. We kill them. Our current operations in the Caribbean are lawful under both U.S. and international law, with all actions in compliance with the law of armed conflict and approved by the best military and civilian lawyers up and down the chain of command. Our warriors in Southcom put their lives on the line every day to protect the homeland from narco terrorists, and I will always have their back. And he made that statement just a few days ago on November 28th. And I got to say, I love the messaging personally. And I'm not one of those people. I'm not a neocon. I'm not in favor of more wars. But there are a few things that the Trump administration has done that not everyone on the MAGA side of the aisle has supported. For instance, I had no problem with him bombing Iran. People were losing their shit over that, insisting it was going to be boots on the ground. Trump's purchased by Israel clearly now, and that's all that means. And at the time, I remember seeing it thinking, yeah, good, okay. We bombed Iran. They may have had nukes. They may not have. They may have been trying to develop nukes. They may not have. Why do I give a shit? It's Iran. I don't care about them. Again, I'm detached like that. If it's not Americans, I have no sympathy for anybody in the world other than Americans. I am America first, America only. I don't care about Iranians. I don't care about Israelis, by the way. I don't care about the Middle East at all, in fact. But even if there was a 10% chance that Iran was developing nukes, I was all for him bombing Iran. And he did, and I was happy about it. And now it's the same thing with these narco terrorists. Do I want some full-level ground assault new war waged in Venezuela? No. I don't want any new wars. It's unjustifiable in my opinion. However, these boats are a clear and present danger to America, and it's clear what their mission is. These are not fishermen boats. They have 3 motors on them for speed purposes, and they're full of barrels with drugs. Blow them up, leave no survivors. I'm okay with that. Most Americans, I think, are too. Some of them pretend to be outraged on social media, but in actuality, nobody gives a shit. Empathy is fake. It's not real. It's outrage culture. It's virtue signaling, and it needs to stop. But of course, it won't stop because the Democrats thrive off outrage culture and virtue signaling and headline readers. And so that ties me all back to Lex Luthor wannabe Senator Mark Kelly here, who's grifting off of this to try to save himself, I would assume, from future military court prosecution when it comes to his seditious conspiracy video. And so in that prior video I showed you with him on Meet the Press, where he kind of dodged the question of if he would ignore orders from President Donald Trump to blow up these boats, here he is on CNN actually answering the question.
You mentioned that you were a captain in the Navy. If you received that order, would you have carried it out?
No. No, and I'm a guy who I have sunk 2 ships. You know, I've sunk an OSA-2 missile patrol boat in Kuwait Harbor, a Palnakni troop carrier in the Persian Gulf during the first Gulf War. I never, in that situation, questioned whether those strikes were legal. We were given an order to do this. It was a time of war. These were Iraqi ships with Iraqi crew members who posed a threat to the United States military, in this case, who they invaded Kuwait. We're trying to kick them out of Kuwait. This was approved by Congress, all of that, right? So, but if I was ever given an order for a second, I've had questions about the operation in general, and I've been saying this for weeks, putting service members kind of like, are you stepping over a line here? Is this legal? They have tied themselves in knots trying to explain to us on the Armed Service Committee how this is legal, not sharing, you know, all of the information either, which is really troubling. But you know, going after survivors in the water, that is clearly not lawful.
And so this guy created a seditious conspiratorial video urging U.S. forces to disobey any illegal commands, not specifying what those illegal commands were, by the way, because none have been given. Nevertheless, committing sedition according to the law itself, where you cannot encourage U.S. soldiers to disobey orders from the president, as all presidential orders are presumed lawful upon them being given, mainly because I've covered this again, but orders are given with careful discretion, usually after legal consultation. Trump has a team of lawyers around him at all times, pretty much. This stuff's important. But now he's also decided, this guy, to lead the way by going on television multiple times to talk about this controversial event of the Trump administration blowing up narco terrorists. Oh my God, what about the narco terrorists? These poor victims. I mean, you can't make this up, but this is liberal narrative in 2025. We are supposed to be devastated for the lives lost of these narco terrorists. And he's leading the way by going on TV here and saying, I would have disobeyed that order from Trump. That is illegal. If that's what happened, if those people were clinging onto the side of the boat and they got blown up, that is just terrible. I can't imagine a worse war crime. What a joke this guy is. And he's really only digging a deeper grave for himself here, because this is a officially signed document from Pete Hegseth from the Department of War. It is officially a memorandum for Secretary of the Navy, signed November 25th, 2025. Subject, potentially unlawful conduct by Captain Mark E. Kelly, U.S. Navy retired. The Department of War recently received information regarding potentially unlawful comments made by retired Captain Mark Kelly in a public video on or about November 18th of 2025. I am referring this and any other related matters for your review, consideration, and disposition as you deem appropriate. Please provide me a brief on the outcome of your review by no later than December 10th, 2025. Pete Hegseth. And all I'm going to say about this is we better see results for this, because when you allow Democrats to continue to get away with this behavior, when you demonstrate in front of the American people that there is, in fact, a two-tier justice system, which is only upheld on one side, by the way. The Republicans look out for the Democrats far more than the Democrats look out for Republicans. Democrats couldn't be more clear, in fact, in their messaging. If and when they regain control and power, they will be persecuting Republicans who are currently in the Trump administration now. They will be weaponizing lawfare against Republicans who are doing stuff they don't like right now. There are several instances of Democrats speaking this way, so they don't plan on extending the same courtesies. Nevertheless, Republicans feel it's important to stick to their not-so-moral code and protect these Democrats from consequences and keep them from facing accountability for their disgusting, and in this case, most likely, seditious behavior. And when you do that and demonstrate to the American people that there is no true justice for high-profile people like this, all the while the economy, Gen Z can't buy homes, millennials still don't own homes, rent is too high, groceries are too expensive, cost of living is in crisis right now, everything sucks. We're not getting what we were promised overall, and we're not even getting justice delivered on behalf of us. That is the recipe, in my opinion, for a full-scale revolt, revolution style. It's actually dangerous. The Trump administration, by being so damn soft on corruption and like this, is actually playing with fire, in my opinion. And so that is why I think it is so important that we start seeing justice. If Pam Bondi can't deliver it, fire her. And in this case, this one's most likely going to the military courts, which is why I remain hopeful. Now, Pete Hegseth would actually go on to double down on November 28th here, stating, "We have only just begun to kill narco terrorists." And again, I love it. I love having somebody lead the military who's actually got some testosterone in him, who doesn't actually feel the need to dress up like a woman. 2 days later, he would go on to post this, just to straight up troll the boy Democrats who are complaining about Venezuelan narco terrorists being killed. You gotta love it. But let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on this topic, especially when it comes to Venezuela in general, because there is a developing plan here, it seems, when it comes to this. The whole regime change thing, I'm just not in favor of it. It's a waste of time. I hope the Trump administration doesn't embrace it. Let me know if you agree with that statement. Also, let me know, do you think we should be blowing up these drug boats? I personally do. It's okay if you disagree with that. Comment down below and let me know. It helps this video perform well in the algorithm. Be sure to leave a like as well, for the love of God. If you made it this far, you owe me a like at the very least. If you enjoyed that clip, be sure to check out my YouTube channel where I have the full video where this clip was taken from published. And if you're America First like I am and you're an American advocate, be sure to subscribe and like the post. Thanks so much for watching.